ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्। ॐ तत्सवितुर्वरं रूपम् ज्योतिः परस्य धीमहि यन्नः सत्येन दीपयेत्।
So welcome everyone. I think we can start. Just putting on the screen for where we left the last time. So last time I had somehow, I don't know, some error, although from my side I pushed the recording button, but it didn't record. So anyway, we did not take up much lines yet last time. So we'll start again, and it's anyway good to read them again. So let's take up an overlap from aware of his occult omnipotent source on page number 79. Yeah, so would anyone want to have an overlap, want to read? We'll just go through these lines and then maybe take up the paragraphs one by one later. Yes, Raviji.
Aware of his occult omnipotent source, allured by the omniscient ecstasy, a living center of the illimitable, widened to equate with the world's circumference. He turned to his immediate spiritual fate, abandoned on a canvas of torn air, a picture lost in far and fading streaks. The earth's nature's summits sank below his feet. He climbed to meet the infinite more above.
Yeah, thank you. So this was the last, in the last to last session, this is where we ended. And in the last session, which we did not record, we started from the immobile's ocean silence saw him pass. So this we'll take up fresh today, but maybe first something on a living center of the illimitable. I'm going to actually just share with us a few lines on this. I found in Mother and Sure Window. So this is a possibility for each one of us. So just I'm going to just stop the share for some time and put on the video so that maybe there is no confusion about what I'm reading. So we see that Ashwapati is just taking higher and higher plunges into a greater consciousness of which ordinary consciousness is not aware of. So as if, imagine that you're sitting in a room and there may be beings in the room, but because my eyes, my mortal eyes can't see those beings, what do I say? I say that no, they don't exist and there is nothing there. Why? Because I'm totally bound by my mortal senses in order to sense and interpret and make sense of things. But if in this very same room an occultist is there, or a psychic is there, a psychic who has clairvoyance and something, so he may be able to see those beings. So there are worlds and worlds and greater heights of consciousness which are in our ordinary consciousness, they are not reachable. And what do we mean by ordinary consciousness? Whenever we are trying to interpret things through whatever I am hearing, whatever I am listening, interpreting through this layer of conditioned mind. So that's a very little small limited window in which we live. And we think this is it. This is my world. But Ashupati, through his gradations of consciousness, like a lot of sadhana, he is able to first still his mind completely, withdraw from the surface sense mind, and then plunge into greater and greater heights of those realms and consciousness which is possible for us. So reading something from Sri Aurobindo on this aspect only. So he says that such is the constituent principle of various worlds of cosmic existence and the various planes of our being. In Hindi we call them, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha. So these are, subtle realms in which we parallelly are living. But because we are so absorbed in the day-to-day entanglements, we are not aware of these planes. So he says that these planes, they are as if a ladder plunging down into matter, and perhaps below it, rising up to the heights of the spirit. But to our ordinary materialized consciousness, all this does not exist because it is hidden from us by our preoccupation with our existence in a little corner of material universe and with the petty experiences of little hour of time which is represented by our life in a single body upon this earth. To achieve real freedom and mastery, we have to ascend to a yet higher level of many plateaued mountain of our being. So imagine as if like there is a big mountain and only tip is visible, rest all is below the ocean surface. And we think that only I am the tip. I'm not aware of what lies beneath the surface of ocean, the waters of ocean. So that's why the importance of bringing the mind to a certain stillness, not following the repetitive trails of our thoughts and feelings, always wanting to make sense of this, logical, analytical mind, my storyline, my feelings. We have to withdraw. A withdrawal is necessary to access the higher light. So that when we access the higher light, that higher light can transform the thoughts and feelings in the body plane also. So this, and then what Raviji just read, this last paragraph where we in the last to last session have ended, a living center of the illimitable. So something so expansive, illimitable, and yet we are all centers of that illimitable infinity. So something on this, and by Sri Aurobindo, he's talking of a descent of higher consciousness, and this we have read in Savitri also. We were reading that there was a descent in Ashupati's being, and as if each fiber of his being is charged with some new light, new energy. So this is where Sri Aurobindo shares, when the overmind descends, so we know that we have planes of mind, higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind, and supermind. Usually we are just in the sense mind. And to access all the other heights of knowledge, we have to still the sense mind. We cannot have a full chattery sense mind and then want to access what is intuitively right for me. We can't do that. So in our stillness of the mind, mind becomes a receptacle. like a container, like you empty your cup, now the cup is empty and it's still and stable, and now it is ready for the higher knowledge to dawn upon it. So here Sri Aurobindo says, when the overmind descends, the predominance of centralizing ego sense is entirely subordinated. So when we are doing our sadhana, we are taming the mind, training the mind to goodness and stilling our being. What happens is that there is a descent of higher consciousness, higher light. And then in that light, the ego is subordinated. It's not completely gone. Sri Aurobindo will talk about this also. So ego is like a, like a spider in my room. Now it doesn't bother me. It may be on some wall, but I'm not listening to its dictates. Ego is not completely dissolved. So he shares that the centralizing ego sense, me as this separate body, this mind, this conditioning, this storyline, all that is subordinated. It's not of that much of importance. Lost in largeness of being and finally abolished. Later on, it completely gets dissolved. A wide cosmic perception and feeling of a boundless universal self. This is what we have been reading with Ashupati's experiences. Like he expands and becomes one with the cosmic existence. He sees all that as one. Now he's not limited as a separate personality. So he says, a wide cosmic perception and a feeling of boundless universal self and movement replaces that little ego sense. Many motions that were formerly egocentric may still continue, but they occur as currents or ripples in the cosmic wideness. So some daily activities, which are required for an egocentric life, they may still continue. Like a trivial example is, okay, you have a passport. Now you still need a passport if you want to travel here and there. You can't say, no, I am a cosmic being, it doesn't matter, this limited identity, I am not. But you will have to continue with that. Somehow the structure is of the society is like that, right? So these items still go on, but you are not focused on that as your primary self. You know that that's limited personality is not me. So they still occur as currents or ripples in the cosmic wideness. Thought, for the most part, no longer seems to originate individually in the body or the person, but manifests from above or comes in upon the cosmic mind waves. So usually when we are thinking as an ego personality, which in our evolution is important. So earlier there is, okay, this is what parents are saying, this is what society is saying, this is what my relatives are saying, but I don't know what I want. So as we are growing up as in childhood, teenage and adult, it's good to develop a sense of, okay, this is what I want and that all I don't want. Society may be saying, but I don't want. So you develop your individual thought. And that is a temporary personality that we develop. But that's not all. We can't stabilize ourselves there. There is much greater heights to go to. So he says that thought still carries on, but now it is not my thought. It's like a thought world from which thoughts come and whatever is necessary is picked up. Right? So there is a difference here, that thought for the most part no longer seems to originate individually in the body or the person, but manifests from above and comes in upon the cosmic mind waves. All inner individual sight or intelligence of things is now a revelation or illumination of what is not in one's separate self, but in the universal knowledge. So one is not thinking that, oh, this thought belongs to me, this illumination belongs to me, this is my intuition. So that minus is getting dissolved. It's just a clarity that you keep receiving from these different planes of our existence. Thought world, the world of feelings, the world of vital energies. So you keep on having a connection with that. Reception is there, but there is no separate tight individuality. So the feelings, emotions, sensations are similarly felt as waves from the same cosmic immensity, breaking upon the subtle and the gross body, the Sukshma Sharir and the gross body, and responded to in kind by the individual center of universality. This is what we just read. Limited center of illimitable, living center of illimitable. So what does he say here? They are responded by the individual center of universality. So we are all like those little living centers, alive centers of this universal phenomenon that is taking place. All of us. But we are not awake to that consciousness. So we have to get awake. That's what I wanted to share here. Yeah, anything anyone wants to share at this point? Okay, so now we are going to take up some new lines, which we already did, but we'll do it again. So if someone could read the lines in blue, I think Sharda ji wanted to read. Yes.
Yeah. The immobile's ocean silence saw him pass, an arrow leaping through eternity, suddenly shot from the tense bow of time, a ray returning to its parent sun. Monica, if you don't mind, I'll read once more.
Yes, please.
Yeah. The immobile's ocean silence saw him pass, an arrow leaping through eternity, suddenly shot from the tense bow of time, a ray returning to its parent sun. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So how he is just withdrawing, first withdrawal from the sense world, not giving the thought, feeling, perceptions too much importance. So you withdraw into yourself, you get into this inner being that we have, and then there is silence there is quietness there, stillness there, and then from that stillness, that ingathered energy of tapasya, then with all that energy, ingathered energy, he goes forward and marches into these other planes of consciousness. So he is also passing through this vast silence, which is nothing but one of the phases, one of the planes that you pass through. That is not the end. That silence, that vast infinite silence is not the end in itself. It's just, there is also something beyond that silence. So what is here happening? He is with great energy and enthusiasm. He's leaping like an arrow, an arrow leaping through eternity, suddenly shot from the tense bow of time, a ray returning to its parent sun. So it recognized that no, I am not this mortal body. My source is somewhere greater, somewhere higher, and is ready to connect with that source. So on the way, he passes through this immobile's ocean silence. This is one of the, like a stage of realization one is passing through, and one is not just settling down in that state of realization, because there are other worlds to go beyond. So the immobile's ocean silence saw him pass. But this cannot happen. This cannot happen if we continue to remain how we are, so scattered in our day-to-day living, our day-to-day sense mind. We are very scattered. But, and although, if we talk to everyone, most of us who are on the spiritual path, we will see that everyone wants to touch these higher planes of consciousness, because that's our destiny, birthright. But we are not ready yet to leave the sense mind. Now, without disengaging from the sense mind, we cannot do this. Because all the fuel, like we are having a fuel tank, petrol. All the petrol is wasted in making sense of the ordinary things in our mind, obsessive thinking. Why this happened, why that happened, why that person said this to me. So we are always involved in the sense mind. All the petrol is wasted. Now here we see that Ashupati is not wasted the petrol. He withdrew from the sense mind, ingathered the energy of tapasya, then took the plunge into these higher states. What is the possibility for each one of us? So if we want to attain to these heights, we have to ingather and then go higher and higher and deeper and deeper. A ray returning to its parent sun. But then on the way, what happens, he's describing. Then next was what he's confronted with something, and what is that something. So if anyone would like to read the lines in yellow.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Opponent of that glory of escape, the black inconscient swung its dragon tail, lashing a slumbrous infinite by its force into the deep obscurities of form. Death lay beneath him like a gate of sleep. Thank you.
Thank you. So now there is something that is opposing him. And what is that something? That is the dragon of the inconscient, the dragon of the darkness. Now we see that, I'm just going to reshare something else here. We see that in also in fantastical stories like Harry Potter, or we see like Lord of the Rings, we see that they always have these characters like dragons, and they are taking care of these dark areas, like dark words, shadowy words. And it is coming from, they say, Vedas. And in Vedas there is a mention that these dragons are as if they are guarding the darkness. So whenever anyone wants to cross the darkness and shadowy world of the inconscient, this darkness that pulls us down, we sit in meditation, but we become dull and lethargic after some time. We are not able to just pursue it without any pause or relaxation. We need Vedic rishis, they had periods of night and day. So they will have beautiful realizations, but then they will have very, very dark periods also. Why? Because these depths are very dark in our subconscious, unconscious depths. The body, the darkness of the body, the dullness and lethargy of the body. So whenever the being wants to rise up, they pull it down. And it takes time, rising up, going down, rising up, going down. It takes a lot of these kind of up and down before there is a complete realization. But Ashupati did not stop. Even when the dragon of the inconscient, it's lashing its tail. So I'm going to share this nice reference of what comes in the Vedas about this dragon. It's not a very clear cut, but it's like an image of how we can look at it. So we see here in Secret of Vedas by Sri Aurobindo, we see here he says, the mystic dragon of the foundations. So dark foundation, matter, inconscient is the foundation. The consciousness got involved in the inconscient, masked in the inconscient, and that's the mystic dragon of the foundations. Then again there comes one more reference. Okay, just a second. I think nice to mute. Sorry for that. Yeah. So again we see, now shall one affirm the goddess earth and heaven with the dragon of the foundation. See, again comes the dragon of the foundation. So I just wanted to share that there is a reference of this dragon that we are reading in Savitri in the Vedas. Just a second. Yeah. So here we come back to it again. What is its opponent? Opponent of that glory of escape. The black inconscient swung its dragon tail, lashing a slumbrous infinite by its force. So it's like trying to stop Ashupati's ascent. That how can you possibly do that? Something like that. But he's not stopped. He knows where he has to go. Into the deep obscurities of form, now death lay beneath him like a gate of sleep. So now from these heights where Ashupati is now, he is able to see that death is not that dark as we see as mortal beings. When we talk about death, we all become very gloomy and really go back into sentimentalism, grieve and all that. Now, it may have a part to play in right now our consciousness, but death is not what it appears to be. Death is like a gate of sleep. It's a period of assimilation. So Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words, we see that so-called death, when the body is leaving, in Gita also this comes, this reference, that I don't never, we never go here or there, we just change clothes. So death is that phase of changing clothes. The soul consciousness has dropped off one kind of clothes. It's assimilating all the experiences of present life, the psychic being. So, and rest, it's also a period of rest. Like, you go out, you play a game of football, you want to rest. You want to assimilate, or what were the learnings, what kind of kicks did I learn today. So there is a period of assimilation. Death is that period of assimilation and rest for the psychic being, for the soul consciousness. So that's what he saw from these greater heights where he is now. Death did not appear scary as it appears scary to us mortal beings. Why? Because we are always living and bound by the sense mind. Whatever senses are saying, believing, interpreting, sticking to our interpretations, not even questioning our interpretations, being very, very limited. So he has gone beyond that, and that's why he can see death like a gate of sleep, nothing else. So also like a rocket, when it wants to leave the earth consciousness. Again, there is a metaphor here. When a rocket would want to leave the earth atmosphere, we see that it needs a lot of throttle. Why the throttle is needed? Because the earth's gravity pulls it to itself. That's the, it's kind of a metaphor for the pull of earth consciousness, the pull of darkness of matter. And once it is out of that, then the laws of gravity are not functional on that spaceship. It is far from gravity now. It is in outer space. Now another law will be operation, the laws of outer space. So same with a consciousness which is rising up to its height, that now the material laws, the law of karma as we understand it is, it's not in the grip of duality. It's not in the grip of cause and effect. When the consciousness rises beyond this terrestrial sense mind, that's the beauty. But before that, the rocket would need the throttle. Otherwise, we won't be able to cross the earth atmosphere. It will keep pulling it down, the rocket. So what is that throttle that all of us need? That is the ingathering of consciousness which Mother and Sri Aurobindo talk about. To know what you want, to will what you want, and then to make the plunge. And it takes a lot of experiences for each one of us to actually be sure, okay, this is what I want to do. Otherwise we are like a rocket. We take out in the spaceship, and then in the midair we think that, oh no, I forgot something back home. So we go back home. Maybe something was left. My luggage is not complete. Then something else entangles at home. We forget about the spaceship journey. So this is how it happens to us, that our will is not unified. So we have to unify our will. We have to know what we want from our life. And that comes when we have all these experiences of our life, when we have suffered enough, and then we realize, no, there is something greater in me that I have to find. Nothing more is important than that. Then we can ingather, and then we can concentrate the energy into a tapasya and have this throttle that is required, to leave the earth atmosphere, to leave the sense mind and touch the higher states of consciousness. So if we are wondering why is the throttle missing in my life, definitely something more important is there than this sadhana. And it's okay, since divine makes use of everything, even our ignorance is made use of. So all our experiences, whether half ignorant, half knowledgeable, they're all made use of. Destiny is certain, the divine victory is certain, but we can collaborate. It's not that there is nothing in our hands. When we have free will at our disposal, whenever I think I am ready to take this plunge and unite my will, ingather the threads of my consciousness, and just dig out my divine self, no one can stop us, just like Ashwapati is not stopped by that dragon's tail. Yeah. So this is until this point. Anyone? Anything here? Okay, so let's go ahead then. Would anyone want to read the lines in blue? One pointed to the immaculate delight. Yeah.
One pointed to the immaculate delight, questing for God as for a splendid prey. He mounted, burning like a cone of fire. To a few is given that godlike, rare release.
Yeah, thank you. So this is the one pointedness that we were talking of. One pointed to the immaculate delight. He knows what he wants. Once I was in a Christmas party many years ago. It was happening here in Gnostic Center in Delhi, Palam Bihar, which is again based on Mother's Sri Aurobindo's vision. So, and in Christmas, as we have cakes, so we had cakes, and there were three different types of cakes. And I was standing next to that cake because I wanted the cake again. And there were a few kids also wanting the cake again. And the lady who was distributing the cakes, she was asking, which one do you want? Now, some of us were confused in standing in front of three cakes. Which one do I really want? But she was asking a child, which one do you want? And the child was just right. If he hit at the spot that, okay, I'm sure I want this one. So she said something very interesting, which still stayed with me. She said, that's really good that you know what you want. Because most of us don't know what we want. That's our confusion, dilemma. In the morning, we are wanting the divine. In the evening, we are wanting something else. So now he is one pointed. He knows that nothing is more important than this that I am at. Nothing. Nothing, no sensory input is more important than this. So one pointed to the immaculate delight. Now his senses are not anymore enchanted by all the glitter of the senses. Look, this relationship, that person, that job opportunity, this ambition, that pride, this name, fame, respect, nothing, nothing. So in Hindi, we have a word called udasinta, which comes in spiritual tradition. And udasin is like a label you give to a realized master. Udasin, and then the name comes Mr. So and so. And udasin, if we go in the Sanskrit terminology, it means a person who is disenchanted from the material existence. Udasin, he is transcended and seated above. Ud means above, and asin is seated above from the sensory pleasures. He knows that the sensory pleasures can't give him anything lasting. But we are not sure, we are not convinced. We think that no, if 10,000 experiences have not given me fulfillment, maybe 10,001 may give me the fulfillment, lasting fulfillment. So we keep running after people, after relationships, after name, fame, approval. So getting disenchanted, knowing that this worldly fleeting existence cannot give us lasting delight that we are all looking for, one can become one pointed. So then I'm not all the time entangled in my sensory input. One pointed to the immaculate delight, questing for God as for a splendid prey. Like, how an eagle would kind of, it takes really a plunge into one once it knows where it is the prey that it wants. It just hits directly at the prey. For example, it has seen some small little rabbit or something in the grass. An eagle eye is a very strong eye. It has a beautiful vision. So from far away, it can recognize, here is my prey. And directly, without getting distracted, it swoops and gets to the prey without any distraction. And in Buddhism also, we see that non-distraction is a very beautiful quality of the mind. So that's like how Ashwapati is questing for God. Just give me a moment, I'll just mute myself. Yeah, sorry for that. He mounted burning like a cone of fire. So again, if we see a cone of fire, it's like wide from below and pointed from above. So that's the kind of aspiration, the cone of aspiration he's burning with. He knows what he wants. He mounted burning like a cone of fire. To a few is given that godlike, rare release. Release from what? Release from bondage of being a separate self. What in Hindi we also call mukti. That we feel so suffocated, limited as a being, so limited, so incapacitated. But we have the possibility of getting away from that cage. And he says, to a few is given that godlike, rare release. Why to a few? Why not everyone? Let us think about it. Why to a few? What do you think? Why would he say that? I think we all know.
I would guess that most of us aren't focused enough, you know, and aren't devoted enough and consecrated enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So it's like if we are wanting to be devoted in this lifetime, we can do it. And that's the experience of lifetimes we are carrying. It's not just the experience of this lifetime. If in this lifetime I can become like a cone of fire and know what I want, truly aspire only for that, then it is not only this lifetime, it also is a tapasya coming from the past lifetimes. That's what psychic being is assimilating, all these experiences of past lifetimes. So I'm going to read a few words from MP Pandit on this line. To a few is given that godlike rare release. So he says, though many might seek for the higher consciousness, for the union with divine, it is only a few that are blessed with the necessary facility to translate that aspiration into reality. For innumerable are the meshes in which the faculties of mind are caught up, those ingrained and gathered habits and associations, samskaras, that obstruct and prevent a free flight to the spirit. Our entanglements. Sit for meditation for 5 minutes and you will see all the picture of that entanglements which stops us. We'll get a visual image. What is he saying? All that is illusory. When we sit and thoughts come and storylines come and they appear so glittery. I will give you, I promise you something, I promise you something. Oh, but you didn't say that to that person. So all this crowd chatter, nothing, we are going to get nothing from there. We have to get convinced. So they obstruct these patterns, these repetitive tendencies, samskaras, they obstruct and prevent a free flight to the spirit. And we are like clamped to the ground. You understand what a clamp is. Like in Europe, when I was, whenever you park your car at a wrong place, they clamp it down to the ground. So now it is chained to that ground. You can't take it away. One of the tires, they clamp it to the ground. So that's how we are chained and imprisoned in the sensory mind. Kisne kya kaha? Who said what? Who insulted me? Who praised me? Who rejected me? What I said to the other person? This is all the chatter, clamor of the sensory mind. By his own effort, man cannot wrestle himself free from these disabilities. We see how helpless we feel. We see, although we may be aspiring that, no, I don't want to be a limited person, I don't want to listen to these dictates of the ego consciousness, but we feel helpless at times. So he says, by his own effort, man cannot wrestle himself free from these disabilities. It is only a higher power, a grace of God, that can give him this freedom, which is natural only to gods. And those that are so elected for the favor are always few. Few because we need patrata. In Hindi there is this word patrata. Patrata is that you are worthy of that release. Now, of course, in one sense, we can say we are all worthy. Of course, we are all children of the divine, and it's true that we are all worthy. But we have to give importance to what requires importance. If we keep giving importance to the ego consciousness, if we keep taking side of the devil, then expecting a rare release, then it's almost a kind of a ignorance and stupidity. That is what we have to understand. So this is patrata. Like in Gurukul tradition, there would be patrata. The one student who is sincere, who has one pointed concentration, he becomes more open to grace. So we are all like stones, all of us like stones. Air is all around us, but inside the stone, no air can get. Why? Because the stone is not porous. It is tight, rigid, hard. No air can go inside that core of that stone, the rock that is there. But what happens if the stone is now lying beneath a fountain, like a shower, drip, 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 one drop, one drop is coming on the stone. That's what we call satsang, or company of good words and masters. Drop by drop, what happens to the stone? The stone begins to wither away. It smoothens. So that is what is porosity. We have to slowly become porous like a sponge. If we see a sponge has many air kind of possibility. The air can go in, water can go in. If we keep it in the water, it soaks up the water. So we have to become like sponge. The consciousness has to become so porous and receptive like a sponge. But we start our journey like a stone, rigid, like really very hard in our consciousness. Crudity of matter. And that's why amongst all the gunas that are there, tamas, rajasic guna and the sattvic guna, why sattva is considered most illumined. Although we have to leave that also at some stage, but why is it considered most illumined? Because tamas is like hard as stone. Rajas would be like, okay, at least some consumption is there, some admission is there that yes, I am lacking something, I am very rigid, so let me do this, let me do that. So some opening is there. But sattva, the character of sattva is, I am opening myself to words of light and illumination. I understand that there is lack within, I understand that I am imperfect, but I seek greater light and greater truth. I don't seek little satisfactions, which is the quality of rajo-tamasic character. Where we seek. In tamas, we are not even seeking. In rajo-tamas, we seek, but we are still occupied with little transitory satisfactions. In sattvic character, our energies are all seeking higher truth, higher illumination. And later on, that also gets transcended, as Gita it is shared. So this is patrata, we all have to rise. We all start from all these stages of darkness, but how long will we take the side of our entanglements? That we have to stop now. If we have enough understanding, now we can stop and take the side of truth. Open ourselves receptive to the truth. So by his own effort, we can't do it. We have to do it with grace. We have to call grace. Mother, I can't do it, but I know you are all powerful. You can do it. I am not going to take the side of this pattern that is emerging in me, but I know you can help me in this. You can help me. And mother helps. So we understand, we can understand this better with that story of Vibhishana, how he was eating up all these animals when he was living with all the monkeys who were together with Lord Rama. And monkeys complained to Lord Rama that, see, Vibhishan, he still has a Rakshasic character and he doesn't eat vegetarian food, he eats a lot of non-vegetarian foods, he kills animals and eats. So they complained to Lord Ram, and he says that, okay, I will see to it, don't worry. So slowly, they kind of say that first he was eating deers, now he has reduced himself to rabbits, then he reduces himself to little insects, and then he completely switches on to a vegetarian diet. And monkeys are wondering, how is this possible? So Lord Rama says that, whenever he would be overwhelmed by the need of meat, he would remember me. He would say, I don't know what to do. I feel so helpless. You know, you tell me, you show me the path. And slowly, the Lord shows the path. So that's the power, overwhelming power of our patterns. And that's not it, because we have grace of God with us, which we have to call upon. So I cannot do it, yes, but Mother, you are in me, you are outside of me, you are all powerful. I know you can do it. We have to resort to Mother's power, divine power. Yes. Anything here? Anyone? Okay, so I'm going forward. Would anyone want to read the lines in yellow? I think Jayashri, you wanted to read. Would you like to?
Yeah. One among many thousands never touched, engrossed in the external world's design, is chosen by a secret witness eye and driven by a pointing hand of light across his soul's unmapped immensitudes.
Yeah, thank you. So now he's talking about this few. To a few is given that God-like rare release. The one who really, really, really wants that, but nothing else. What Ramakrishna Paramahansa told Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, when he went, that people tell me you have seen God. Can you show me God? And then he puts his head inside water, and then he's struggling for his breath, and he says that when you will struggle for the divine like this, then you will have God. That's how we develop the patrata. We become worthy of having that realization. So one among many thousands never touched, engrossed in the external world's design. So this is our sensory mind. We are all absorbed there. Inputs from the senses, interpretation from the sense mind, the physical mind, believing those interpretations, believing the thought flow, believing the feeling flow, all that is our limitation. So he says, one among the many thousands never touched, engrossed in external world's design, is chosen by a secret witness eye. So imagine that there is a spy camera, as if, in the universe, there is a spy eye which is looking at each one of us. All the activities are taken care of by that spy eye. That's why Mother says that don't be sincere to show that you are sincere. Be sincere truly. Because there is this world eye, witness eye. We can't hide anything from the divine. Even our subtlest of ill will thoughts that are brimming in our mind. And if we are following the dictates, it is seen. It's like a cine camera. Mother talks in her prayers and meditations. It's like Chitragupt, secret cine camera. All impressions are taken care of. We are all being watched. Not watched by someone else. Of course, our higher consciousness. Don't think that, somebody else sitting over a throne somewhere else, separate from us, watching, judging. Not like that. So everything is being taken care of by the witness eye, and this witness eye decides, okay, this person now is ready. Now he becomes choiceless. He can't go back. In Lord of the Rings, if you've seen, in not the first three movies, The Hobbit, the first one, Hobbit Part 1, in that this wizard called Gandalf, he selects one particular hobbit, Bilbo Biggins, and he says, you are the one, you will be doing the task of helping us, find that gold wherever it is hidden in the, the dragon has gotten a hold of it. So he has chosen him. Now the chosen one has no choice. He would not be able to go back to the ordinary life. So one is chosen by a secret witness eye and driven by a pointing hand of light across his soul's unmapped immensitudes. So this is an adventure of consciousness that we have to do, being a human. Mother talks about this, that when the world upturned itself, Sat became Asat, consciousness became unconsciousness, light became darkness, more immortality became immortality. Then when the Divine Mother said, okay, let me plunge deep down in this darkness and I will bring all to light. Mother says that all our souls, all of us sitting here today listening to this, you gladly jumped into this adventure with me, saying that because we are the children of the Mother, Divine Mother, we are all children of light. Let us go down deep in this darkness and have this adventure of consciousness, Mother says. We may have forgotten it. That's the point. Mother says that you have forgotten it, but I have not forgotten it. So the idea is to remind ourselves. That's why Kabir in his couplets all the time says, why did you come to this human birth? Remind yourself. Why are you sleeping? Why are you sleeping? That's what he shares in each of his songs. Wake up, wake up. Do the task that you are come to do. Don't keep sleeping. What he means by sleep? Sleep is living in the sensory world. World is sleep. Always looking for the sensory input, interpreting by the sense mind. That's sleep. That's not waking consciousness. Masters call it sleep. And that's why master like Kabir, he would say, wake up to your true self. Don't keep sleeping. So this life of sensory mind is a sleep. Because there is a vaster consciousness which is behind our waking state, which is still to be attained, waiting to be attained behind this curtain of sense mind. So when one is chosen, when one is sincere that yes, I know what I want, only truth, only light, then that one is chosen by that witness eye and driven by a pointing hand of light across his soul's unmapped immensitudes. So imagine unmapped immensitudes of soul, and we say that my soul is in this body. Now this body, appearance wise, it seems limited. Here it starts, here it ends. But what it hides is infinite, the soul consciousness. That's the paradox of truth. It is hiding infinite. Finite is hiding the infinite. Paradox of truth. That's what we have to discover. That's the first step, getting in touch with our divine Godhead within. So we can take maybe a few more lines and then we can. Yeah. Anyone want to go next?
A pilgrim of the everlasting truth, our measures cannot hold his measureless mind. He has turned from the voices of the narrow realm and left the little lane of human time.
Yeah, thank you. So now look, he says human time is nothing but a little lane. Lane is like a little narrow street. We have, in India, we have many streets like gully in Hindi we say, galiyan. So what is our human life, human time that we spend? We mostly spend it in this little lane of sensory mind. That's it, and gone. A whole lifetime is gone in that lane. We did not discover, okay, what was in the next lane, what was in the mountain next to that valley. Did not, no discovery. Now, of course, we can say that one ripens through experiences, but there is also an element of free will. And using that free will, we have to disengage from the thought mind, the sense mind. That's why we sit down, we ingather the threads of our consciousness when we begin to meditate, try to meditate. What are we trying to do? We are disengaging from the sensory mind. We are not buying into the thoughts that point of time. We are not listening to our feelings. We are disengaging as a witnessing consciousness when we are trying to meditate. Because we know that the lane of thoughts and feelings is not the only lane that we have to discover. There is much, much, much more waiting. So this is the little lane of human time where all the time we are engaged. So who is Ashupati, or this chosen one? A pilgrim, a tirthyatri, who is going to a holy destination, a sacred destination, his parent's son. A pilgrim of the everlasting truth. So it's the destination. What is the destination? The everlasting truth, unending truth, illimitable truth. Our measures cannot hold his measureless mind. Now you cannot draw him back by your earthly pulse. Our measures cannot hold his measureless mind. His mind has gotten expanded now. He has turned from the voices of the narrow realm. What is the narrow realm? And left the little lane of human time. Now he is not going to listen to what thoughts and feelings are saying on the scattered ordinary consciousness. Again, having a metaphor here, when in Lord of the Rings or these fantastical stories, when one has to, say in the first three Lord of the Rings, that guy, Frodo, he has to take this ring back to its origin so that it can get dissolved. Now, on the way, there are many, many distractions. But he has to march through all those distractions and take the ring to its ultimate, where it has to get dissolved. So this is our sadhana. So when we begin to meditate, when we try to sit with mother's name or breath, bringing mind to the breath, we will see that we are scattered. We again and again, some thought will come, give it your promise, this is what I will grant you. So we'll have many, many distractions on the way, but we will have to just cling to the mother's name, cling to the breath, and go on and on and on and on and on and on. Like how this imagery is, that if I have to go to the end of this valley where I have to do some work, whatever distraction or darkness is on the way, I cannot stop. I must not stop, because this is a work which is important to be done. So I'm going to just put forward, and then we can end after that, something by Sri Aurobindo in Letters of Yoga. Again, beautiful description of these steps that we were reading. Yeah. So here in Letters on Yoga, he shares, this is the topic is, this is Letters on Yoga part 2, experiences of the inner and cosmic consciousness. So he shares these stages. What is he sharing? There is a stage in the sadhana in which the inner being begins to awake. So the inner reality begins more of a concrete reality for me. Outer is just a scattered, illusory thing I can ignore, I can ignore, I can ignore. Inner becomes more concrete. So inner being begins to awake. Often the first result is the condition made up of following elements. What are the elements that are required? A sort of witness attitude in which the inner consciousness looks at all that happens as a spectator or observer, observing things but taking no active interest or pleasure in them. So this is what we were talking about when we sit to meditate. What do we do? This is what we do. We are having a witnessing stance. Who am I? I am this awareness, looking at the thought, looking at the feelings. Yes, all of them are going, but I am not engaging with them. Letting them come, letting them go, letting them come, letting them go. So this is what is witness attitude. This is an essential element. Without this, the sadhana cannot progress. So first is a sort of witness attitude in which the inner consciousness looks at all that happens as a spectator or observer, observing things but taking no active interest or pleasure in them. So knowing, getting disenchanted that yes, I know these promises can't give me anything that I want. I have suffered enough buying into these promises. So the promises will keep showing me up in my, it's like a ball having a momentum. You can't stop the ball just like that. It needs some time to slow itself completely. So the repetitive loops of thoughts, patterns, they all will keep coming on. But I will now have a witness stance, no active interest in them. Udasin, disenchanted. They are not glittery for me anymore. Second, a state of neutral equanimity, in which there is neither joy nor sorrow, only quietude, like Shanti, peace. And that's why when in the Aryan spirit we were talking of these two qualities at once. Equanimity goes together with peace. It brings quietude in the being. So when we are in the witnessing stance, there is equanimity, there is quietude. Whenever we are there, again, glimpses will come and go, and we will take time to stabilize. Of course, that is for sure that we need time for stabilizing ourselves as the witnessing consciousness. But whenever we are there, the gladness is there, the quietude is there. Neither an excitement is there nor disappointment is there. So not too high, too low. That thing is not there. Just a neutrality is there. And that neutrality is not coldness. It's not indifference. It's a neutrality. Because indifference is not neutral. So that we have to understand. Then third element is a sense of being something separate from all that happens, observing but not a part of it. Hence, we can laugh over it. So, yesterday in the session, Sunday integral healing, we were talking of this. We can laugh about it. Why can I laugh over some happening in my being? Because I am away from it. I cannot laugh over it when I am seriously attached to it. But I can laugh over it because I am detached from it. I'm standing a bit distance from it. So some stupidity of thought may have happened. But who am I? I am not that stupidity. So I can look at it and laugh. It really brings a lot of humor back in life. So a sense of being something separate from all that happens, observing it but not a part of it. An absence of attachment to things, people, or events. So, again, an element of witnessing consciousness, the more stability we get in the witnessing consciousness is an absence of attachment. There still may be fondnesses, which Mother talks about, the psychic fondness, people who are on the same path, but it's not attachment, because in attachment we suffer. In attachment, we have too much excitement and too much disappointment. So, that's not there. So an absence of attachment to things, peoples, and events. And then he, describes it further. And again, this whole page is beautiful for those of us who want to. He also talks about this udasin. Here, see, udasin, not sorrowful, but neutral and indifferent. I think here he puts indifferent together, but at another place he says it's not coldness and indifference. So that may be a different context that I was bringing in. So the experience you have of a division in the being with the inner void and indifferent udasin, not sorrowful but neutral and indifferent, is an experience which many pass through and is highly valued by the sannyasins. For us, it is valued. One can settle down there, but he says, no, that's not it. For us, it is a passage only to something larger and more positive. So that udasin state is also a temporary phase. In integral yoga, we have more and more, to traverse. For us, it is a passage only to something larger and more positive. In it, the old small human feelings fall away, and a sort of calm, neutral void is made for a higher nature to manifest. So, as if you are preparing a ground, this udasinta is nothing but a preparation of a ground so that the higher delight, bliss, gladness, all that can transcend in that. It must be fulfilled and replaced by a sense of large silence and freedom into which the mother's consciousness can flow from above. So the higher consciousness of delight, gladness, that can flow into that space. But we have to prepare the ground. I think that's very important. So today I think we pause there. Yeah, anything anyone wants to share? Okay. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for listening so patiently.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Monica.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.